Hello, welcome to Monday, November 16th daily instructional video. Today you're going to do your warm-up. So the warm-up is just all you have to do is go to Google Classroom, click on the link for the Google form, and you're going to be copying down these definitions of academic vocabulary words that we will be studying with the Odyssey. We have a medias res, which means in the middle of things. The story that begins in the middle of the action. So this would be what we've studied before with nonlinear plot. Hubris means excessive pride, and with the Greek mythology, we're going to talk about epic heroes and all their great qualities, but they do have an epic flaw, which is hubris. They do have excessive pride at the time. We'll also look at some epic similes, which are a detailed comparison in the form of a simile that is many lines in length. And we'll look at some epithets, which are brief description phrases that point out traits associated with a particular person or thing. And we'll see that throughout the Odyssey. So go ahead and pause the video and then go do your Google form and copy down these academic vocabulary words in the Google form. Okay, so take a moment and before we start reading the Odyssey and discussing the Odyssey, go ahead and watch this little video that will help you understand some things, give you some background information of that will help you understand the Odyssey. It's not that long. I think it's like 4 minutes long. Okay, so you should be able to go to Google Classroom and you will see the Read and Annotate the Odyssey Part 1. There is a reading schedule to go along with it. We're reading not all of Part 1, so I've given you line numbers to follow. Monday, we're going to be reading lines 1 through 156. Tuesday, 157 to 525. Then Thursday, we'll jump to 672 to 827. And then Friday, 828 to 997. And I will go through the parts in the Google Slides that we are not going to be reading and just summarize those to you. And later on, we'll have a handout that has a summary of all of Part 1. You will have these guided notes to do, and I'm going to click on that so you can see what it looks like. These guided notes are called Cornell style notes. You have the notes here on the side with some guided questions, and then over here you'll type out your response. So as we read, or as you read, you want to pay attention to what does the reader learn about Odysseus' men in the passage below. These are lines 10 through 15. How do Odysseus' men cause him trouble both in Ismarus and in the land of the Lotus Eaters? And you'll give your response over here. Make sure you're always writing complete sentences. What does the reader learn about the Cyclopes in lines 109 to 120? And what is the ironic about Odysseus' description of these creatures? Write your response over here. Then look at lines 137 through 152. And the reader learns about some wine that Odysseus brings when he takes 12 men to explore the island of the Cyclops. So what is special about this wine and how is it significant to the story? And then with this one, we're going to read these two passages right here, and explain the Homeric simile comparison being made. So these are extended, kind of like what we see like extended metaphors, as Homeric simile or epic simile takes several lines to explain, but they're in the form of a simile. So explain those two passages. How have Odysseus and Polyphemus broken the rules of Xenia? We'll talk about that too in our slides this week. And how does Odysseus become cursed? To be sure to explain who cursed him and the specifics of his curse. Now, for Monday, we're not going to do this entire worksheet. This worksheet will cover Monday and Tuesday and will be due on Wednesday, the 18th. Okay, so let's go to the slides. So as you read, make sure these epithets that we'll talk about, and be sure that you highlight those blue and write what they're referring to. underline the main idea and make any notes in the margin explaining what is important. And then pink, highlight for figurative language, similes, metaphors, personifications, Homeric similes that you'll be finding also. So when you open up the book, or when you open up your book, when you look at the text, the very first part we're going to be reading is invocation, which is an introductory passage at the beginning of an epic, which the speaker asks the muse for inspiration. The invocation is essentially a prayer. If you ever go to like a graduation or some kind of ceremony and you have a program, usually there you'll see an invocation, ... in someone's name. It's whoever's doing the opening prayer. The invocation is also there to introduce the hero, to set the scene of the tale, or serve other purposes. So it's kind of set up like an exposition to set up the background. So I'm going to go to the text. We'll have a character list here. Remember, you can listen here to the audio. So just to start us off, sing me Muse. Muse are the 9 daughters of Zeus. These were the goddesses that were known to inspire the poets, the artists, the musicians. And so with the Odyssey being a tale that was spoken and told and passed down through oral rhapsodies, singers of tales, it would be appropriate for them to call on the muse for some inspiration. One of the things that we are right here off from the beginning, we get to hear about Odysseus. Here's an epithet right here to describe him: man skilled in all ways of contending. So you can highlight that and you can make a note that that is referring to Odysseus. They're talking about about him being a great warrior, that he fought in the Trojan War, which was a war that lasted for 10 years, and it was because of him that the Trojan War ended. Let's continue on here. He saw the talents and learned the minds of many distant men, and weathered many bitter nights and days in deep heart at sea, while he fought only to save his life and to bring his shipmates home. But not by will nor valor could he save them, for their own recklessness destroyed them all. Children of fools, they killed and feasted on the cattle of Helios the sun. And he who moves all day through heaven, took from the eyes the dawn of their return. Of these adventures, Muse, daughter of Zeus, tell us in our time, lift the great song again. So the part I've highlighted here is important because we learned something about Odysseus and his men. We know his whole goal after Troy fighting in the Trojan War is to get home. Not only is he trying to get himself home, but he's trying to get his shipmates home. He wants everyone home safely. But we find out, just like we will in when we read Romeo and Juliet in the prologue, we actually find out how it kind of ends. We find out that Odysseus will lose his men, and it's their own fault that they die. Apparently, they feasted on Lord Helios, that is Apollo, the sun god, and because of that, he took from their eyes the dawn of the return. Is another way of saying he made sure they died. We don't know exactly how this all happens. We don't have all the specifics, what led to this, but we do know that his men are not going to make it. All right, so sailing from Troy. So the Trojan War was 10 years. It's going to take Odysseus an additional 10 years to get home. 10 years after the Trojan War, Odysseus departs from the goddess Calypso. He arrives in Phaeacia, ruled by Alcyoneus. Alcyoneus offers his ship to Odysseus and asks him to tell of his adventures. So there's several things we need to talk about right now. Let's go back to our slides. Oops. Okay, we've already talked about this. So the muse is an inspiration. The invocation also introduces the epic hero and outlines the struggles he would face. Medias res, like I've mentioned before, it just means the story starts in the middle of a thing. So we're literally, if we took a timeline, we're right in the middle when we first meet Odysseus. And he's with King Alcyoneus. He has been with Calypso and he's left her, and now he's with King Alcyoneus. So how is Odysseus' tale beginning with line 18, an example of a story, medias res? What action is already underway? The story starts with Odysseus already faced many struggles, including the Cyclones, Lotus Eaters and Cyclops, we'll get to that in a moment. He's in Phaeacia telling the story of his tale thus far to Alcyoneus. So when he begins to tell us what happened to him after Troy, everything is a flashback. So it's like going back to the very beginning of leaving from Troy. Because right now when he's talking to King Alcyoneus, it's been 10 years since he's left Troy, and he still hasn't made it home. So he's going back and retelling everything that happened to after the Trojan War. So some things to know about epic heroes, so we can pay attention to them as we read. Epic heroes have a cultural legend. Before an epic hero can be universally known, he must be first, legend in his culture. So Odysseus was well known for his strategies, how clever and smart he was. Athena was the goddess who protected him, and she's the goddess of wisdom. Everyone knows that he came up with the idea of the Trojan horse, which helped the Greeks get inside the city of Troy and destroy it and conquer that city. Vast traveler. As an epic hero, he's known for making travels to exotic locations by choice or by chance, usually to battle against an evil. So we know he's traveled to Troy, but after Troy, he bounces around from place to place, some very exotic locations that we will see. Battles supernatural foes. The opponents and obstacles of the heroes' faces are usually supernatural beings, such as gods or monsters. We're going to see Odysseus deal with a Cyclops. We're going to see him deal with witches and goddesses, Circe and Calypso. We're going to see him fight monsters such as the Sirens, Scylla and Charybdis, and deal with gods such as Poseidon and Lord Helios. Noble birth, usually a king, prince, demigod, or nobleman of some capacity. Odysseus is the king of Ithaca, and so that is his noble birth. Humility, the hero performs great deeds of their own sake rather than glory. Heroes that boast or exhibit hubris may be punished and humbled. So Odysseus is pretty much a really good guy. He's always looking out for his men. He does have that hubris, though, that excessive pride, and it does get him in trouble. And he will have to learn. He does learn quite a bit from his journey trying to get home about his pride. Unmatched warrior. This hero typically has a reputation for being a great warrior even prior to the beginning of the story, and that would be his success in battle in the Trojan War. And superhuman capabilities. This warrior has the potential for greatness based on their abilities or attributes such as cunning, bravery, humility, wisdom, and virtue. And Odysseus's superhuman capabilities is his cunning, which is being very clever, very smart. He's a strategist. He can outwit so many people. So epic poetry has these epic heroes, and in a moment, epic heroes have a narrative poems that feature an epic hero who represents traits highly valued in his or her society. So after reading lines 18 through 37, how can Odysseus be described, and what traits of an epic hero does he possess? So let's go back and look at our reading there. Okay, so let's listen to him here. I am Laertes' son. Men hold me formidable for guile in peace and war. This fame has gone abroad to the sky's rim. As we can see right there, Odysseus is saying that he is very well known. He gives another epithet here. I am Laertes' son, so that is referring to Odysseus. And he's bragging on himself. So we see that pride sneaking out right here, right now. But he is truthful that he is well known. My home is on the peak of the sea mark of Ithaca. So this is Ithaca is a place. It is an island off of Greece in which Odysseus is king of. From Mount Neon's windblown robes of leaves, in sight of the islands of Dethion, some wooded Zikirith, Ithaca being most lofty of the coastal seas and northwest, while the rest lie east and south. A rocky isle, but good for a boy's training. I shall not see on earth a place more dear. So he's talking about his home and how much it means to him. Though I have been detained long by Calypso, loveliest among goddess, who held me, um, loveliest of goddesses, who held me in her smooth cave, in her heart's delight, as Circe of Aea the enchantress desired me and detained me in her hall, but in my heart I never gave consent. Where shall a man find sweetness to surpass his own home and his parents in far lands? He shall not, though he find a house of gold. So let's go back to our question here. So what do we learn about Odysseus? We know he's an epic hero. He can be described as he's a very clever, very smart, and that he does exhibit hubris as he kind of brags about himself there. He is introducing himself to King Alcyoneus here and starting to tell him his story. So what of my sailing then from Troy? So he begins to tell his tale. And I'm going to let you go ahead and read about the Cyclones and about the Lotus Eaters. And we're going then to pause right before we get into a little bit of the Cyclops, and then we will pause. Let's go back to the slides here. So with the Cyclones, as you read, Odysseus continues to tell his tale to Alcyoneus about from Troy and how they arrived where the Cyclones were, and they saw an easy target, so they thought, yes, we'll go ahead and fight them and grab their wealth. And they did. They defeated them, and they took treasures, and they took slaves. But Odysseus wanted to leave. He was ready to get out of there because he was kind of concerned of what would happen. But his men wanted to stay there and party, and they were mutinous. They didn't listen to him. They wouldn't follow his orders. So they refused to leave, and they stayed and celebrated that night, which was a huge mistake because some of the slaves were able to escape and go get some more help. And the main forces of the army came back and attacked Odysseus and his men, and they killed several people. And so once they made it back to their ships, they had heavy losses, as they could see that some of the rowlocks, where the men sit, the rowlocks, here's the rows, how they rowed their ships. They were men missing on the benches. So if they only had listened to Odysseus, which we'll see them be mutinous again, they're not always so quick to listen to him. It gets them in trouble. This is line 38 through 69. You'll also read about the Lotus Eaters. So with the Lotus Eaters, after they left the Cyclones, Zeus sent a storm that sweeps them along for 9 days and finally landed on the Lotus Eater Island. So Odysseus sent 3 men to go explore the island and see what these people were like. And these people were very nice. They were giving Odysseus's men the lotus flower, which was an intoxicating fruit. And what happens when you eat that, you begin to lose all your thoughts and your desires to go home. So Odysseus had to go and rescue his men, which he will have to do a couple times, from the Lotus Eaters. And they were so unwilling to go back, he had to carry and drag them back to the ships and lock them underneath the rowlocks and hurry up and get off of there. And they were losing all desire to go home. And that was line 70 through 108. All right, so as you read, what I would like for you to do is to, especially after the first stanza of the Cyclops, I want you to write down for yourself 3 questions about the reading so far. What are some things you're maybe not sure about? What are some questions you have about the content you read? Anything about the writer's craft, vocabulary? Avoid any questions that simply answer yes or no. Here are some stems down here that will help you. And kind of ask yourself that, and then we'll look and see if you can answer it as you read. So I want to go back to the reading. Okay, so we've covered the Cyclones, and I've gone over the Lotus Eaters with you. And you're going to read just a little bit of the Cyclops. You're going to stop at, let's see. I think I want you to stop a little further down. Oh, sorry. Let me go back to, I can't remember the line numbers I had said. we're going to end on line 156. Line 156. So that would be right here after the wineskin. So after they leave the Lotus Eaters, they come up to the Cyclops. So in the land we found were Cyclopes, giant louts, without a law to bless them, meaning they didn't follow any kind of law. They just did whatever they want. In ignorance, leaving the fruitage of the earth in mystery to the immortal gods, they neither plow nor sow by hand, nor till the ground, though grain and wild wheat and barley grow unattended, and wine grapes and clusters ripen in heaven's rain. Cyclops have no muster, no meeting, no consolation or old tribal ways, but each one dwelling in their own mountain cave, dwelling out rough justice to wife and child, indifferent to what the others do. So they're just talking about just how brutal and wild and unattained these Cyclopes are. They could. Odysseus, of course, is very shocked. Being a farmer of himself for his kingdom, he sees the potential of them, and they're not using it. They're actually their sheep is what's their prized possession and what they care for. As we rode on and near the mainland to one of the bays, we saw a cavern yawning above the water, screened with laurel, and many rams and goats about the place inside the sheepfold, made from the slabs of stone, earth fast between the tall trunks of pine and rugged towering oak trees. A prodigious man slept in the cave alone, and took his flocks to graze a field remote from all companions, knowing none but savage ways, a brute so huge he seemed no man at all to of those who would eat wheaten bread, but he seemed rather a shaggy mountain reared in solitude. We beached there, and I told the crew to stand by and keep watch over the ship. As for myself, I took 12 best fighters and went ahead. I had a goat skin full of sweet wine that Euanthes' son Marin had given me. He kept Apollo's holy grove at Ismarus. For kindness we showed him there, and showed his wife and child. He gave me 7 shining golden talons, perfectly formed, of gold, a solid silver wine bowl, and then this liquor, 12 two-handled jars of brandy, pure and fiery. Not a slave in Marin's household knew this drink. Only he and his wife and the storeroom mistress knew. And they would put 1 cupful ruby-colored honey smooth in 20 more of water, but still the sweet scent hovered like fumes over the wine bowl. No man turned away when this cups of this came around. All right, so some things to go back to. So he's talking about these cyclopes in general, first talking about the wildness of them and how savage they are, and they don't follow any kind of laws or any kind of rules, which is kind of ironic because Odysseus and his men, they've kind of done the same thing. They were just going by Cyclones, and they stopped and pillaged them for no reason other than to gather up more wealth. So, and now here they are about to enter into the Cyclops again, uninvited and not knowing what's there. So they're kind of, doing their own thing as well. So Odysseus and them, they actually don't go to the Cyclops island. They are staying on a little cove off from the island, and they're waiting for. And then Odysseus takes his 12 men to go explore the island. And this is one of Odysseus' downfall. He's curious. So his curiosity, you ever heard the saying, curiosity killed the cat? Well, gets Odysseus in trouble. He talks about the main Cyclops that we're going to be reading about. His name is Polyphemus, and how he's actually off by himself. He's not with the rest of the Cyclopes, and how he's taking care of his goat and rams. Then he discusses this wine that he brings that he got from Marin. And this wine is a very potent wine. How do we know it's potent? He discusses how, like, the people who gave it to him, they took 1 cup of this wine and poured 20 more of water in it, and still the fumes were very strong and potent. So it tells you it's a very intoxicating type of wine. And all of this will be important because of Xenia. Okay, and we'll talk about that a little bit more tomorrow. But to end the day, you get to enjoy a little clip from Percy Jackson of the Lotus Casino, which ties into our Lotus Eaters from the Odyssey. So, what other movies do you know? Do you see connections to the Odyssey? There's quite a bit out there. Let's see. All right, so y'all have a good day. Enjoy the video, and if you have any questions, let me know, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.